All right, day 2 of the 7-day language learning experiment, in which I am going to try to learn a language in 7 days, as much as I can in 7 days. Language I have chosen is Swedish, simply because it looks cool. And yesterday I memorized vocabulary, 250 common words with associations, and then I started with the input. Massive amounts of reading while listening using Lick. Today I'm going to continue doing the same. I've already been doing the same already. I've been memorizing more vocab and I've been reading more after memorizing the vocab. It makes more sense doing it this way because then if you've got a lot of vocabulary that you just memorized, some of it you will forget it, right? But if you start reading and listening right after memorization session, if those words were common and frequent and useful, you'll keep seeing them when reading and listening, so you'll keep reviewing them, so you will remember them. You can also read and then write down the words that you didn't know and memorize them afterwards. That's also good. But I'd rather memorize first because it's much more tedious and less fun than reading and listening, right? Interesting content, or even just short stories, even if they're not super interesting, it's much easier to do than memorizing. Although memorizing with associations, visualizing them, creating fun stories with them, it can get it can become fun and interesting if you've got if you're a creative person and you like to come up with fun stuff, it can be fun as well for certain people. I'm going to continue memorizing and I'm going to continue reading and listening. Tomorrow I'll start with the speaking part. Yeah, my comprehension's starting to improve already. Tomorrow I'll start listening and repeating to so that I can start working on my pronunciation, and I will start using my language islands. I've got a list of sentences that I will translate to Swedish. There might be some mistakes. It keeps switching off. I will translate them to Swedish and start saying them aloud, and then translating them verbally and see how it goes. It will be a complete mess, and I'll show you how you do it, how I do it. Rather, I'll show you how I do it or how you can do it. So you can do it as well with any language that you're learning. It's again, it's not the most fun thing to do, but it's very effective. If you want to learn to speak, the verbal translation exercise with a bilingual text, basically you need an Excel sheet. I'll show you tomorrow, but basically you need an Excel sheet with languages, with sentences in your language, whatever you want to say, and then the translation next to them, and you have to try to say them in the target language without looking at them, and then you can self-correct. And this immediate feedback will help you find out why you're making all your mistakes and correct them. And also, you thinking in the language, and it will allow you to then, when you're in actual conversation, you will be trained to think in the language and respond instead of relying on conversation to get good at speaking. Because then, every time you are in front of someone, if that's the time when you actually want to learn to speak, you just put in a lot of pressure on yourself. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience, and you go into. Some people are going to, not necessarily you, but some people are going to avoid conversation because it's an uncomfortable situation and they're not very good at speaking yet. But the thing is, it's a catch-22 situation, right? If you're not good at speaking and the way to get good at speaking is talking to people, and you avoid it because you're not good at speaking, then you will never get good at speaking. So the solution to that is to practice speaking on your own. And we'll do that tomorrow. I'll show you how I do that tomorrow. In fact, if you're learning any language and if you're watching this, you probably are learning more than one language, or at least one. You should do this daily on your own. But that I will show you tomorrow how I do it. Today it's going to be more input, more vocabulary, memorizing vocabulary with associations, and more input because I want to work on my comprehension for now. But first of all, before doing that, I'm going to answer some of the questions. I got a lot of comments yesterday, which I like. I like people asking things. Most of them are nice. So yeah, let's see. Some of you have questions, so I will try to answer your questions. Okay, Matthew, should be interesting. Thanks. Your English is good. Blah blah blah. Thank you. Teresita says, el sueco está entre los idiomas que quiero aprender a corto plazo. Well, just watch this, and she says that she wants to learn Swedish, by the way. She also says that she's trying to improve her French, Portuguese, and Italian. Probando a ver si no me confundo, but yeah, this is a common thing. If you want to learn languages that are relatively similar to each other, like Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian, and to a lesser extent French as well, the problem often is going to be that you're going to end up mixing the languages. So you end up speaking Portuñol or Italian and Spanish, and yeah. The way to avoid this is language islands and translation. The thing I talked about yesterday, and I'll make a video specifically for this, but basically you have to write down all the sentences you want to say, translate them into all the languages, all the similar languages in different columns, and then try to say them. You try to say it in Italian first, then you try to say it in Portuguese, then you try to say it in Spanish. And if you're mixing the languages up, you just have to check after saying each one of them, and you will notice that, you will immediately realize where your mistake was. So you can simply keep doing that and learn to distinguish between the languages. You can also translate from one of those languages into another. So you take sentences in Portuguese and you try to say them in Italian, then compare and check. Then you do it the other way around. So you learn the differences between one and the other. This is a very good way to learn to not mix languages. And of course, really important, listen a lot of listening. Portuguese and Italian and Spanish, grammar and vocabulary are very similar, but they sound very different. Especially Portuguese sounds very different. So a lot of listening is important. It's always important, especially if you're learning languages. It's like if you're learning Polish and Russian. There are similarities. Yeah, obviously one uses Cyrillic, the other one doesn't. But a lot of the grammar and vocabulary is similar. But pronunciation is very, very different. So if you don't want to mix the languages up, or Russian and Ukrainian, for example, or Polish and Ukrainian, you should listen to them regularly so that you learn to distinguish. Anyway, more questions. Okay, here this is an interesting. There's someone saying, I have been dabbling in Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, and Swahili, and I'll try Zulu next. Wow. Okay. All of these are languages that I've never tried, and I want to at some point. I have a very long wish list of languages I want to learn. My advice for something like this, if you can't find that much in terms of content, is using ChatGPT. It's not perfect, but you can create language islands at least. And then if you can find something to listen to, whatever, radio or something, that'd be great. But it's definitely a challenge. I coach people who try to learn Basque. No, actually, they do learn it if they learn it with me. But it's my native language, and it's not that easy to come up with materials. And I'm from here. It's an official language here. So imagine trying to find materials for a language that's not spoken by many people, and that's abroad, that you don't know much about the place, and you don't know people from there. Maybe you do know people from there. That's the best thing you can do. Ask for help, maybe. Okay. How easy is it to learn this skill to memorize a lot of vocabulary? A lot of people tell me that. People tell me you need to. Of course, you've got a really good memory. Of course, you can learn languages easily, and so on and so forth. Look, this is a skill you can get good at by practicing. You try associations. You try to associate some words. It's going to be difficult, maybe. Some people are great at it. Creative people are very good at it. Some other people maybe not. You just have to keep practicing and keep getting better. Maybe time yourself, give yourself 15 or 20 minutes, and try to come up with as many associations as possible. Maybe you can associate 10 words in 20 minutes. That's very slow, but maybe with some practice, you can get to 20 words in 20 minutes, and then 30, and then 50 in 20 minutes. It's just a matter of getting better and better at it. It's just practice. So anyone who tells you, "Oh yeah, you can do that because," like I got some other comments as well. Like every polyglot I know, like they've got the advantage of having really good memory, blah blah blah. Look, I recently uploaded a video talking about how bad of a student I was. I used to struggle in school all the time. I've never been a genius in school. I've been a bad student all my life. I learned these memory techniques, and I went from bad student to really good student, and really good at learning languages by learning to memorize. You can learn this, so it's not something that you got it or you don't. No, you can practice and get good at it, like most things. So how easy it is depends on the person, but just start and get going and keep trying to do it faster and better. That's my advice. Uh, this there's this guy who always says that his reply was deleted. I never delete unless you're insulting me or something. And no, I don't know why he says that. I'm not deleting anything here. Maybe his YouTube account has some issues or something. Uh, you've confirmed my theory that I had from the beginning of my language learning, which is that the main skill needed to become a polyglot is excellent memorization ability. Yeah, very few people strongly preach that. Again, that's exactly what I was talking about a minute ago. Some even speak against the concept of trying to memorize, saying that the key is just relax and keep absorbing enjoyable content. Yeah, that's the Steve Kaufman thing of I just read more and just watch more stuff, and eventually, when you're ready, just talk to people. That's not bad. It's definitely better than studying grammar. Like the crashing thing of just read more and enjoy the language, but that's not efficient and it's not fast. Eventually, you want to enjoy the language by reading and listening and watching stuff and having nice conversations. But that's the reward. But to be able to speak and to be able to read interesting content, you need to know a lot of vocab. So you should start memorizing vocab as well as reading. Of course, read and listen to stuff and enjoy it. But yeah, this comment's right. You need to memorize vocabulary. If two people start learning a language at the same time, and one person just dedicates all his or her time to reading and watching stuff, and the other person memorizes 100 words a day with associations, and then reads and watches stuff, in a month, who's going to understand more? And who's going to be able to speak more? Obviously, the person who's memorized 100 words a day, because in a month, that's 3,000 words, plus all the reading and listening. If you have memorized 3,000 words through reading and listening, you will have learned even more. No, sorry, if you have memorized 3,000 words with associations, you will have learned a lot more as well through reading and listening, because those 3,000 that you memorized, okay, there won't be 3,000 from the first day, but like 100 the first day, it'll be 200 it'll be 700 by the end of the week, the first week. Those 700 words at the end of the first week will allow you to understand way more from the content you're reading and listening to. So you learn way more in context, because to learn something in context, if you're reading and you don't understand basically anything, you basically know, if you know one word out of 10, it's very hard. It's going to be impossible to read that. So you're going to have to go to more basic stuff. But if you learn all the basic stuff with memorization, and you already understand 50, 60, 80% of the words in a paragraph, it's much easier to learn everything else in context. For input to be comprehensible, you need certain amount of vocabulary, right? You can't learn with comprehensible input if you don't have enough vocabulary that you know. So memorizing vocab, yeah, definitely really important. Read and listen and watch stuff, also very important. Do it. If you just memorize vocabulary lists, you will not really be able to understand the language much. But if you memorize vocabulary and read and listen and watch stuff, then your comprehension will get very good very quickly. And last question, comment. Let me see if there's anything else interesting. Yes, I'm defending Duolingo. Look, Duolingo is a complete waste of time. Duolingo is meant to teach you a language. It's more like a game, an exercise. Let's say you are currently studying 2 languages and you just want to brush your Italian so you won't forget. Also helps. Yeah, but if you want to brush a language that let's say you've been learning a language for a while and then stopped for a while and you're really rusty, you haven't used it for a long time. Do you think using Duolingo is the best way to get back to shape in that language? If you've been learning Italian, let's say you did 6 months in Italy and you could speak and understand a little bit, and then you haven't used it since then. If you start using Duolingo, what are you improving there? Your comprehension, speaking? If you already have some basics of the language, you know some basics, why don't you just start watching video and having conversations, repeating sentences aloud and so on, reading? That's going to be infinitely more effective. And unless you're a kid, it's going to be more interesting as well than playing some mobile phone game, at least in my opinion. But yeah, to each their own. Enjoy your 150,000 day streak with no fluency. Okay, and that's it with the questions for today. I'm going to now start with the Zlatan book. Not start, I'm going to continue with it. All right, let's go.
Ett jävla snack om mina armbågar. Det var mycket som var nytt. Jag förstod inte språket och kulturen. Tränaren snackade inte med mig. Adrianse snackade inte med någon. Han var rena stenansiktet. Jag förlorade mitt flyt. Slutade göra mål. Jag hade gjort en bra försäsong. Vissa jämförde mig med gamle Ajax-spelaren Marco van Basten. Han var en legend. Men nu vändes allt det emot mig. Många såg mig som en besvikelse. En del var mitt eget fel. Jag skötte mig inte. Jag åkte hem till Malmö för ofta. Jag slarvade med maten och sömnen och gick ner i vikt. Som center i Ajax skulle jag ha muskler och stånga mig fram. Nu vägde jag bara 75 kilo och började se spinkig ut. Förmodligen var jag sliten. Jag hade gjort 2 försäsonger på ett halvår. Och maten, vad tror ni? Jag åt skräp. Jag kunde typ bara rosta bröd och koka makaroner. Det surrar i mig i sådana lägen när jag tappar formen. Vad gör jag för fel? Hur ska jag komma ur det här? Det är som en film som hela tiden står på. Jag fastnade i de där tankarna. Jag gick till Benhacker och frågade, vad säger tränaren om mig? Är han nöjd eller vad är det? Det är lugnt, det går bra. Jag har tålamod med det. Jag längtade hem. Jag kände mig inte uppskattad. Varken av tränaren eller journalisterna. Och verkligen inte av fansen. Ajax-supportrar är inte att leka med. När vi bara fått oavgjort mot Råda slängde de stenar, järnrör och glasflaskor på oss. Jag fick visslingar och burop. Jag kunde förstå dem. Jag var klubbens dyraste köp. Jag borde vara nya Van Basten och göra mål efter mål. Men jag ansträngde mig för mycket. En fotbollssäsong är lång och man kan inte visa allt i en enda match. Men det var det jag försökte. Det var nog därför det låste sig för mig. De där 85 miljonerna började kännas som en förbannad ryggsäck. Jag satt mycket hemma i mitt radhus i Diemen och spelade tv-spel. I tidningarna stod det Zlatan ur balans. Och så var det ett jävla snack om mina armbågar.
Balans.
I en match mot Groningen armbågade jag en back i nacken. Fotbollsförbundet stängde av mig i 5 matcher. När jag kom tillbaka hände samma sak igen. Nu slapp jag avstängning, men jag fick inte spela mycket efter det. Om ingenting händer i fotbollen måste jag få något annat som kickar igång mig. Jag behöver action. Så jag gjorde en massa dumheter när jag var hemma i Malmö. Det var airbomber och sånt, olagliga fyrverkerier. En massa vilda bilresor för att få fart på adrenalinet.
Airbomber.
Det är så jag funkar. Jag ville spela mer, jag var ensam och ville ha tillbaks mitt gamla liv. Då ringde jag Hasse Borg, det var idiotiskt. Men i hopplösa lägen gör man såna grejer.
All right. Don't know why I couldn't continue.
De såg mig som dummaste falafelkillen. Fan Hasse, kan du inte köpa tillbaks mig? Sa jag i telefon. Kom igen Zlatan, det finns inga pengar till det. Det begriper du. Du måste ha tålamod, sa Hasse Borg. Jag var trött på att ha tålamod. Jag ville spela mer. Jag hade en sån längtan hem, det var helt sjukt. Men vad fick jag? Jag fick en ny smäll. Jag upptäckte att jag kände det sämst i laget. Jag var dyraste killen men min lön var lägst. Det var inte svårt att förstå vad det berodde på. Ni minns Hasse Borgs ord, agenter är tjuvar. Han låtsades vara på min sida, men egentligen brydde han sig bara om Malmö FF. Han förhandlade så att jag fick en låg lön av Ajax. Då blev det mer pengar över till MFF, för själva övergången. Han hade sett till så att ingen agent hjälpte mig. Det gjorde det enkelt för kostymnissarna att snuva mig där på hotellet. Pengar har aldrig varit det viktigaste för mig, men att bli sviken och utnyttjad gjorde mig galen. De såg mig som dummaste falafelkillen, en som man kan lura och tjäna pengar på. Jag ringde Hasse igen. Vad fan är det här? Jag har sämst kontrakt i hela klubben. Han spelade dum och sa, vad fan säger du? Det blev en läxa jag aldrig glömmer. Och jag förlåter inte Hasse Borg, inte en chans. Man gör inte så mot en ung kille från förorten som inte har någon koll. Man låtsas inte vara extra farsa, samtidigt som man försöker blåsa honom. Jag tänker ofta, skulle Hasse Borg ha gjort likadant om jag hade varit en fin kille med en advokatfarsa? Jag tror inte det. Fansen var tokiga av hat. Jag kände mig lurad och kränkt. Jag var sämst betald och fansen buade åt mig. Men jag gav inte upp, inte en chans. Jag hade det inte lätt när jag växte upp. Många glömmer det.
Chans.
Föräldrar och tränare har varit emot mig. Från första stunden. Den där Zlatan bara dribblar, har de gnällt. Men jag har fortsatt. Jag har lyssnat, jag har inte lyssnat. Nu
Fortsätt.
försökte jag förstå hur det funkade i Ajax. Jag tränade hårt och lärde mig av andra. Men samtidigt, jag övergav inte min stil. Jag bara kämpade på. När jag sliter på plan kan jag verka aggressiv och tuff. Jag kräver lika mycket av andra som av mig själv. Men tydligen retade sig Adrianse på mig. Jag var en svår person, sa han senare. Tränaren är boss, jag tänker inte ge igen. Jag kan bara säga att jag ansträngde mig för att platsa. Men det lossnade inte. Då hörde vi att Adrianse skulle få sparken. Ny tränare blev Ronald Koeman. En gammal storspelare från bland annat Barcelona. Jag hoppades att det skulle vända då. Men det blev värre. Jag bänkades i 5 matcher i rad. Enligt många var jag numera bara center nummer 3. Efter Nikos Machlas och Mido. Till och med Leo Benhacker, min vän, sa till journalisterna. Zlatan är ofta spelaren som startar våra anfall. Men han kan inte avsluta framför mål. Sedan la han till. Ska vi sälja honom hjälper vi självklart till så att det blir en bra klubb. Det låg i luften. Tränare Koeman själv sa. Zlatan är egentligen vår bästa anfallare. Men det krävs mer för att lyckas. Som nummer 9 i Ajax. I Ajax talar man om nummer hela tiden. Nummer 10 ska göra så. Nummer 11 si. Inget var så fint som 9. Marco van Bastens gamla nummer. Det var en heder att bära den tröjan. Nu var jag orolig att bli av med 9. Jag hade bara gjort 5 mål i ligan. Ajax hade köpt mig för en massa pengar och jag var en besvikelse. Det kändes, tro mig. Det var min första stora motgång. Jag vägrade ge upp. Jag skulle visa dem. Men hur skulle jag kunna göra det när jag inte fick spela? Våren 2002 tog vi oss till finalen i holländska kuppen. Vi skulle möta Utrecht och det var ett otroligt tryck i publiken. För Utrecht är Ajax den stora fienden. Fansen var tokiga av hat. Vi hade vunnit ligan tidigare. Om vi vann cupfinalen skulle vi ta hem dubbeln. Men jag skulle knappast vara med nu heller. En bit i andra halvlek gjorde Utrecht 2-1 på straff. Utrecht-supporterna blev vilda och luften gick ur oss. Koeman deppade sin kostym och sin röda slips. Han verkade ha gett upp. Ta in mig då, tänkte jag.
Deppade.
Faktiskt, när det var 12 minuter kvar fick jag chansen. Jag var otålig, jag var taggad. Jag var allt på en gång som vanligt i året. Vi pressade och låg på, men minuterna gick och det verkade kört. Det blev några minuters tillägg, men det gick bara inte. Det skulle inte bli någon cupseger. Utrecht-fansen jublade. Deras röda banderoller vajade över hela arenan. Det blev 30 sekunder kvar, 20. Då kom ett långt inlägg in i straffområdet. Det nådde Van Berto, en av brassarna i Ajax. Han sköt i mål, räddade i slutsekunderna. Men det var inte klart än. Det blev förlängning med golden goal. Första målet vinner. Efter 5 minuter nickade jag på ett inlägg från vänster. Jag fick tillbaka bollen och tog ner den på bröstet. Jag var svårt trängd men vände och sköt. Det var inget lysande skott, inte alls. Bollen studsade på gräset. Men herregud, det var väl placerat och gick i mål. Jag slet av med tröjan, helt galen av glädje. Det hade varit ett tufft år. Mitt spel hade låst sig under lång tid, men nu var jag tillbaka. Jag hade visat dem allihop. Koeman sprang fram till mig och vrålade i mitt öra. Thank you very much, thank you very much. Det var en sån glädje, det går inte att beskriva. Jag bara sprang runt där med hela laget och kände hur allt släppte.
All right. That's it for today. More vocabulary memorized, more reading, more listening, comprehension starting to improve. Also important, I almost forgot to mention. You should get something like this. This is a little log I use, and I write everything down here. Some people have a training log. I used to, by the way, for training. Nowadays, I only use it for language learning. Basically, I write down how many words memorized. I write them down so I can keep track of how many I'm memorizing every day. I did 150 today, less than expected, but still, it's the weekend, so not that bad. How many lessons or whatever if you're doing the mini stories or a similar book or whatever, how many pages, how many lessons you're doing, you should write it down, because if you measuring it like that, you'll go faster and you'll force yourself to do more, at least the same amount as the previous day, unless you're ill or unless you're busy or whatever. But it's a way to not be lazy. You keep track and set goals. I'll do at least this amount every day, and then you try to do a little bit more. And that will help you do more. Go faster and do more. And doing more is key to get results, to getting results. You need a lot of input. You need to learn a lot of vocab, you need a lot of input, you need a lot of speaking practice. And if you are writing everything down in something like this, put it in Ireland, by the way, it's nice, right? You'll improve faster. So I suggest you start logging, keep track of how many associations a day, how many lessons, how many pages read, how many minutes of listening. No, not every minute and second. Like, okay, today I listened to 4 minutes, 51 seconds of, no, but a general idea. Okay, an hour, 30 minutes, whatever. Just to at least have an approximate idea of what you're doing. And listening maybe is not that important, but for associations, for memorization, and for the amount of lessons you're doing, how many reps, because you need a lot of repetition for the basics, right? If you're learning to learn all the grammar, the best thing to do is a lot of repetition with the basics. Take the mini stories and read them over and listen to them as well, over and over and over again. There you can track your reps. Yeah, you read the whole list, you listen to it, and then you do it again and again and again. And if you're doing at least 20 or 30 lessons a day, and you can, if you speed read and you listen to the double speed, you will get a lot more reps, and then you learn all the grammar much better and the basic vocabulary. Anyway, that's all. Tomorrow we'll start with speaking. So it's going to be listening and repeating. It's going to be language islands. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow with more speaking exercises. No more speaking exercises, with more Swedish with the first speaking exercises.